The stars had always been quiet. For thousands of years, the galaxy moved in peace. Wars were forgotten things, spoken of only in old stories. The Galactic Concordat, an alliance of 4,000 species, had made sure of that. They traded, they talked, they built wonders across 1,000,000 worlds. Violence was primitive. Violence was something lesser beings did. And then the Devourers came. No one knew where they came from. Some said another galaxy. Some said another dimension. It did not matter. What mattered was what they did. They ate. Not just food, not just resources. They ate everything. People, cities, entire worlds. Their ships were not made of metal. They were alive, massive creatures of bone and flesh that swam through space like sharks through water. And they were always hungry. Velis Prime was a farming world. The Myran people lived there, gentle insect-like beings who had never held a weapon in their 6-fingered hands. They grew food for 20 star systems. They sang songs to their crops. They had no army, no fleet, no defenses. Why would they need such things? The Concordat protected them. The Concordat did nothing. When the Hollow Fleet appeared in their sky, the Myran did not understand at first. The ships were ugly, twisted things covered in dark flesh and sharp teeth. They blocked out the sun. And then the harvesting began. The Devourers did not negotiate. They did not warn. They simply descended, and where they touched ground, nothing remained. Millions of Myran vanished in the first hour. Their bodies were pulled into the living ships, broken down, consumed. Their screams filled every communication channel in the sector. And still, the Concordat did nothing. On the human colony world of New Bizon, Admiral Park Ji-won was finishing her evening tea when the message arrived. She was 63 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face marked by decades of service. She had fought in the Mars rebellions, had lost her husband to a reactor explosion, had buried more soldiers than she cared to remember. She thought her fighting days were over. The message changed that. It was not meant for humanity. The Concordat had rejected Earth's membership 300 years ago. Humans were too violent, they said. Too unstable. Too dangerous. Let them stay in their 17 little systems and play with their primitive toys. The galaxy had no place for monsters. But radio waves did not check membership papers. The distress signal spread in all directions, and Lieutenant Han Yuna caught it on her monitoring station. Yuna was 26, small and sharp-eyed, with fingers that danced across keyboards like a pianist. She had joined the fleet because her mother had, and her grandmother before that. She expected a boring career of listening to static. Instead, she heard the end of a world. The message was broken, fragmented by damage to the sending equipment. But Yuna was good at her job. She pieced it together word by word, and when she finished, her hands were shaking. "Admiral," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You need to hear this." Ji-won listened. The recording was in the Myran language, but the translation software did its work. A voice, high and terrified, speaking through tears. "Please, anyone. They are eating us. Our children. Our elders. Everyone. The Concordat promised to protect us. They promised. But no one is coming. No one is coming. If anyone hears this, please remember us. Please remember that the Myran existed. Please remember that we were alive." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Yuna looked at her admiral. "Ma'am, the Concordat channels are silent. No response. No fleet movements. Nothing." Ji-won closed her eyes. She thought of her granddaughter, sleeping peacefully on the other side of the planet. She thought of the Myran children, screaming as monsters pulled them into darkness. She thought of the Concordat, those arrogant fools who had called humanity savage. "Get me a channel to Earth," she said. Priority 1. The United Defense Council met within the hour. 12 men and women who led humanity's military and government gathered around a table that had seen 1,000 decisions. None like this one. Counselor Beek Sunho was the oldest among them, 81 years, and still sharp as broken glass. He had spent his life building peace, negotiating treaties, avoiding conflicts. He spoke first. This is not our fight. The Concordat made it very clear. We are not welcome in galactic affairs. We are not members. We have no obligation. People are dying, said Captain Shin Do-yoon. He was younger, 42, with broad shoulders and a quiet voice that somehow filled any room. He commanded the Prometheus, humanity's most advanced warship, a vessel built in secret because no one trusted the galaxy to leave Earth alone. Does membership matter when people are dying? They called us monsters, Sunho replied. They looked at our history, our wars, our weapons, and they were disgusted. They wanted nothing to do with us. Why should we bleed for them? Because they're wrong about us. Do-hyun stood, his chair scraping against the floor. We are not monsters. We fight, yes. We have done terrible things to each other, yes. But we also protect. We also sacrifice. We also love. The Concordat never saw that. They never wanted to see it. And if we go? Another counselor, younger, nervous. If we go and we fail, we reveal ourselves to these devourers. We paint a target on Earth. Do-hyun nodded slowly. Yes, that is the risk. If we fight, they will know where we live. They will come for us eventually. Then why? Sunho demanded. Why throw away our safety for people who hate us? Do-hyun looked around the table. He looked at the faces of leaders who had spent their lives preparing for threats that never came. He looked at the fear in their eyes, the calculation, the desperate hope that someone else would solve this problem. Because, he said, we are human. The vote was close. 7-5. Humanity would fight. Admiral Ji-won received the orders as dawn broke over New Bizen. She read them twice, then smiled for the first time in years. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who had found her purpose again. Lieutenant Yuna, she said, send a message to the Prometheus. Tell Captain Do-hyun to prepare for departure. And send another message to every ship in the sector. Volunteers only. No one is ordered to do this. Ma'am? Yuna hesitated. What should I tell them? Where are we going? Ji-won looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Miran were still dying. Somewhere out there, an entire galaxy was pretending not to hear their screams. Tell them we are going to Velis Prime. Tell them we are going to do what the Concordat will not. Tell them. She paused, searching for the right words. Tell them that Earth remembers what it means to protect the helpless. 12 hours later, the Prometheus broke orbit. Behind it came 47 other vessels, everything from battleships to converted cargo haulers. Every single one was crewed by volunteers. Every single one knew they might not come back. As the fleet engaged their jump drives, Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars stretch into lines. Beside him, his first officer, a woman named Cho Min-ji, checked her sidearm for the 100th time. Sir, she said, do you think we can win? Do-hyun did not answer for a long moment. Then he said, I do not know if we can win, but I know we can fight. And sometimes that is enough. The fleet vanished into the void, racing toward a dying world, carrying the hope of a species that the galaxy had forgotten. The monsters of Earth were coming, and the Devourers had no idea what that meant. Velis Prime was burning when the human fleet arrived. From orbit, Captain Shin Do-yoon could see the scars. Gray black patches covered the green land where cities had stood. Rivers ran dark with ash. The clouds themselves seemed sick, heavy with smoke and death. And everywhere, the Devourer ships crawled across the sky like maggots on a corpse. "Mother of God," whispered someone on the bridge. Do-hyun said nothing. He had seen death before. He had caused death before. But this was something else. This was not war. This was feeding. "How many ships?" he asked, his voice steady despite the cold in his chest. Lieutenant Kang Ta-woo, the ship's chief engineer, ran the numbers. He was a thin man with tired eyes and oil-stained fingers, the kind of person who could fix anything if you gave him enough time. Time was something they did not have. "Over 2,000 confirmed, sir. More are arriving every hour. They are coming from all directions." 2,000. The human fleet had 48 ships. And the Concordat response? "Still mobilizing, sir. Estimated arrival, 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. The Miran would be extinct in 6 to 8 days. "Open a channel," Do-hyun ordered. "All frequencies. Let everyone hear." The communications officer, a young man barely out of training, fumbled with the controls. Then he nodded. "Channel open, sir." Do-hyun stood straight and spoke clearly. His words would be heard by every Devourer vessel, every surviving Miran, every hidden Concordat observer. "This is Captain Shin Do-hyun of the Terran vessel Prometheus. We are representatives of the human race, speaking on behalf of Earth and her colonies. Velis Prime is now under our protection. All hostile forces will withdraw immediately or face destruction." Silence. Then, slowly, the Devourer ships began to turn. Not to retreat. To face the newcomers. To see what small creatures dared challenge them. "They are scanning us, sir," Ta-woo reported. "I do not think they are impressed." "Good." Do-hyun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Surprise is a weapon, too. All ships, battle formation. Weapons free on my command." The human fleet spread out in a pattern that no galactic species had seen before. It was not elegant. It was not beautiful. It was brutal and efficient, designed by a species that had spent its entire history killing itself in new and creative ways. The Concordat built ships to look impressive. Humans built ships to win. The first Devourer attack came fast. A wave of smaller vessels, each one the size of a building, screaming toward the human line with weapons that spat acid and fire. They expected the soft metal ships to melt, to break, to run. They were wrong. "Hammer drop," Do-hyun ordered. First wave. From the belly of every human ship, tungsten rods launched forward. Each rod was simple, just a long piece of heavy metal with a guidance system. But at near-light speed, simplicity became devastation. The rods hit the Devourer wave like the fist of an angry god. Flesh tore. Bone shattered. Living ships died screaming in frequencies that made the sensors howl. The Devourers pulled back. For 3 seconds, there was silence. Then they attacked with everything they had. The battle became chaos. Human ships twisted and burned through the Devourer swarm, firing weapons that the galaxy had never imagined. Nuclear lances, focused beams of atomic fire that cut through organic hulls like hot knives through butter. Suicide drones, small craft packed with explosives that sought out the largest enemy vessels and died taking them along. Kinetic rams, reinforced prows that let human ships simply crash through enemies, emerging bloody but alive on the other side. On the surface below, Sergeant Cho Minji led her Marines into hell. Their dropship hit the ground hard outside what had been a Miran city. The buildings were broken, the streets covered in something that Minji refused to look at too closely. Somewhere ahead, her scanner showed life signs. Survivors. "Move!" she shouted. Standard formation, weapons hot. Anything that is not Moran or human, you kill it. Her squad was 15 soldiers. Good people. Scared people. People who had volunteered to drop into a meat grinder because it was the right thing to do. Minji loved every single one of them. The first Devour ground unit found them 2 blocks in. It was bigger than a tank, a crawling mass of legs and mouths and hunger. It saw the humans and screamed, a sound that vibrated in their bones. Light it up! 15 rifles fired as one. The creatures staggered, bled, kept coming. Minji pulled a grenade from her belt and threw it straight into the thing's largest mouth. The explosion painted the street in colors she would see in her nightmares for years. Keep moving. They found the survivors in a basement beneath a collapsed school. 47 Moran, mostly children, huddled together in the darkness. When the humans entered, they screamed. They had been told stories about the violent primitives from Earth. They expected monsters. What they saw was a small human woman with kind eyes who knelt down and spoke softly. It is okay. We are here to help. We are going to get you out. One of the young Moran, barely larger than a human child, crawled forward. Its compound eyes studied Minji's face with confusion. Why? It asked in broken galactic common. Why do you help? You are not Concordat. You are not us. Minji did not know how to answer. She thought about it for a moment, then said the only thing that made sense. Because someone should. Getting the survivors to the extraction point cost Minji 7 soldiers. 7 volunteers who had families, who had dreams, who had chosen to die on an alien world for people they had never met. She remembered every name, every face, every final moment. She would carry them forever. In orbit, the battle raged for 18 hours. The human fleet took terrible losses. 12 ships destroyed. 23 damaged beyond immediate repair. But the Devourers took worse. For every human vessel that fell, 100 Devourer ships died. The swarm had never faced anything like this. They had never faced a species that did not know how to surrender. When the last Devourer ship finally fled, leaving the wounded remains of its fleet scattered across Velis Prime's orbit, Captain Do-Yun allowed himself to breathe. Status report. Engineer Tai Wu's voice came through the speakers, exhausted but alive. We are held together by duct tape and anger, sir. But we are alive. Casualties. Still counting. It is not good. Do-Hyun nodded slowly. He looked at the view screen, at the planet below that still burned but no longer screamed. They had won. They had saved what remained of the Moran. They had done the impossible. And then the warning alarm sounded. Sir, the communications officer's voice was shaking. One of the Devourer ships, the big one that retreated first. It sent a transmission before it jumped. To where? Everywhere, sir. It broadcast our location. Earth's location. The Devourer Hive now knows exactly where humanity lives. The bridge fell silent. Every person understood what that meant. The swarm would come. Not for Velis Prime. For Earth. For humanity. For everything they loved. Far away on New Bizen, Admiral Park Ji-won received the news. She stood alone in her office, looking at the stars through her window, and spoke words that would echo through human history. They know where we live now. Good. Let them come. We will be ready. She turned and began issuing orders. The greatest military buildup in human history was about to begin. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Devourer Hive stirred. It had found new prey. Fierce prey. Delicious prey. The monsters of Earth had won their first battle. The war was just beginning. The news spread faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, on 10,000 stations, beings of every shape and size watched the recordings from Velis Prime. They saw the Devourer fleet, vast and hungry. They saw the tiny human ships, so few against so many. They saw the impossible happen. The primitives had won. On the Concordat capital world of Thesan, the High Council gathered in their ancient chamber. They were the leaders of 4,000 civilizations, beings who had guided the galaxy for 1,000,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had seen stars born and die. They had never seen anything like this. Ambassador Oyunji stood before them, small and alone on the speaking platform. She was 54 years old, had spent 3 decades trying to convince the galaxy that humanity deserved a place among the stars. 3 decades of polite rejection. 3 decades of being called primitive, violent, dangerous. Now they were finally listening. How? Demanded the Thesan High Speaker, a massive creature of crystal and light. How did your species develop? Weapons capable of harming the Devourers? The swarm has consumed 100 civilizations. No one has ever stood against them. Yunji chose her words carefully. With respect, High Speaker, the answer is simple. We had practice. Practice? Humanity has been at war with itself since we learned to hold rocks. We fought over land, over resources, over ideas. We killed millions of our own kind. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. She paused. The Concordat looked at our history and saw monsters. You were not entirely wrong. But those monsters learned to fight, and fight, and fight some more. Silence filled the chamber. You bring war wherever you go, said another counselor, a being of flowing water held in a crystalline shell. You are chaos. You are destruction. Yes, Yunji agreed. But we are also survival. We are also protection? The Moran called for help. The Concordat debated. We acted. That is the difference. The debate raged for hours. Some demanded that humanity be quarantined, isolated, prevented from spreading their violence. Others argued that the humans were the only hope against the Devourer threat. In the end, no decision was made. The Concordat was good at not making decisions, but the galaxy was watching. And the galaxy was beginning to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they had been wrong about the monsters from Earth. Back on Earth itself, the work had already begun. President Yoon Ha-jin stood at the center of the global command bunker, watching screens that showed activity on every continent. Factories that had made cars now made warships. Universities that had taught philosophy now taught weapons engineering. Every human who could work was working. Every human who could fight was training. She was 58 years old, a former teacher who had never expected to lead anything larger than a classroom. Now she led a species preparing for extinction. Madam President, her aide approached with another report. The latest projections from the Science Council. Ha-jin took the tablet and read. The Devourer swarm would reach human space in approximately 3 years. Early estimates suggested their numbers at over 10 million vessels. Against that, humanity could build perhaps 5,000 ships if they stripped every resource from every colony. 3 years, she said quietly. It is not enough time. No, ma'am. It is not. Ha-jin was quiet for a long moment. Then she made a decision that would define the rest of human history. Schedule a global address tomorrow. Every channel, every language, every human who can hear. The next day, 7 billion people watched their president speak. My fellow humans, Ha-jin began. Her voice was calm, steady, the voice of a teacher explaining a difficult truth. I will not lie to you. In 3 years, possibly sooner, an enemy will reach our home. This enemy does not negotiate. It does not show mercy. It consumes everything in its path. The same enemy that nearly destroyed Velis Prime is now coming for Earth. She paused, letting the words sink in. The Concordat has spent centuries calling us monsters. They looked at our wars, our weapons, our endless capacity for violence, and they were disgusted. They wanted nothing to do with us. Perhaps they were right to be afraid. Another pause. Around the world, people held their breath. Because we are monsters. We have always been monsters. We clawed our way out of the mud and learned to kill anything that threatened us. We survived ice ages, plagues, and our own stupidity. We are stubborn. We are violent. We are completely, absolutely, unreasonably unwilling to die. Her voice hardened. And now something wants to eat us. Something that has eaten 100 civilizations. Something that has never met a species it could not destroy. She smiled, and there was fire in it. They have never met us. I am not going to promise victory. I am not going to promise survival. What I am going to promise is this. If we fall, we will fall fighting. If we burn, we will burn so bright that the galaxy will remember us for 1,000,000 years. We will make the devourers pay for every inch of our space, every colony, every single human life, with so much of their own blood that they will curse the day they learned our name. She leaned forward. We have 3 years. In 3 years, we will build an army that this galaxy has never seen. We will construct defenses that will break their teeth. We will train our children to fight, and their children after that if we must, because that is what humans do. We do not surrender. We do not stop. We do not give up. They are coming for us. Let them come. We will be ready. And when they arrive, they will learn what it truly means to face the monsters of Earth. The address ended. Around the world, there was a moment of silence. Then, slowly, the work began again. Faster now, harder, with a purpose that burned like a star. Far away, on the damaged Prometheus, Captain Do-yoon received orders for a new mission. Take his surviving crew into Devour-held space. Learn everything possible about the enemy. Find their weaknesses. Report back. It was a suicide mission. Everyone knew it. No one complained. 6 months later, deep in territory where no non-devourer had ever survived, Do-hoon's crew made a discovery that changed everything. Captain. Lieutenant Taiwu's voice was strange, confused. You need to see this. The probe data showed a massive Devourer fleet, thousands of ships moving at high speed. But they were not hunting. They were running. Running from what? Do-hoon asked. Taiwu's face was pale. I do not know. But whatever it is, it scared the Devourers so badly that they fled an entire sector. An entire sector, sir. Abandoned. Empty. Do-hoon stared at the data. The Devourers were not just hungry. They were desperate. They were not invading the galaxy for food. They were fleeing from something. Something that hunted even them. Get this information to Earth, he ordered. Immediately. And keep looking. I want to know what could possibly scare these things. On a burned and healing Velis Prime, Sergeant Minji received a message. It was poorly written. The words spelled wrong, the grammar broken. It came from the Moran nursery she had saved. Thank you, it said. We live because of you. We will not forget. You are not monster. You are family. Minji read the message 3 times. Then she carefully folded it and put it in her pocket, next to her heart. Somewhere out there, war was coming. But right here, right now, a child had called her family. Some things were worth fighting for. Some things were worth dying for. And humanity was just getting started. 2 years into the war, and humanity was losing. The Aegis Line had been a masterpiece of desperate engineering. 3 star systems turned into a fortress, bristling with weapons, mines, and automated defense stations. It was supposed to hold the Devourers back for years. It held for 6 months. Commander Han Yuna, promoted twice in 2 years as her superiors died around her, watched the final collapse from her command bunker on Jeju Island. The screens showed red everywhere. Red for danger. Red for death. Red for the colonies that no longer existed. New Bizen was gone. Admiral Park Ji-won had stayed with her flagship until the end, broadcasting tactical data and evacuation coordinates even as Devourer ships tore her vessel apart. Her last words were simple: "Tell my granddaughter I love her. And tell them we made them pay." They'd made them pay. For every human ship that fell, 50 Devourer vessels died. For every human soldier that was lost, 1,000 of the enemy burned. But the Devourers had millions. They could afford to trade. Humanity could not. "Commander," a young officer approached, his face gray with exhaustion. "Earth Orbital Defense reports contact. They are here." Yuna closed her eyes for 1 second. Just 1 second to feel the weight of it. Then she opened them again and became the person her people needed. "All hands to battle stations. Coordinate with Orbital Command. And someone get me a coffee. It is going to be a long night." The sky above Earth filled with fire. The Devourers came in waves, endless waves, more ships than humanity had ever built in its entire history. The orbital defense grid met them with everything it had. Satellites erupted in nuclear fury. Ground-based lasers carved burning lines through the swarm. Ships piloted by brave men and women crashed into enemy vessels, taking as many with them as they could. It was not enough. The first Devourer landing pods punched through the atmosphere and hit the ground in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in the Americas. Where they landed, monsters emerged. Creatures of every size, from human-sized hunters to building-sized harvesters, spreading out to do what they did best: eat. In Incheon, Sergeant Cho Minji gathered her unit in the basement of a collapsed apartment building. She had 43 soldiers under her command now, survivors from a dozen different units that had found each other in the chaos. Among them was Private Nam Jisoo, an 18-year-old boy who had lied about his age to enlist. "Listen up," Minji said, her voice steady despite the sounds of destruction above. "There is a civilian shelter 3 blocks east. 2,000 people, mostly families. The Devourers are moving toward it. We are going to stop them." "How?" someone asked. "There are hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Then we kill thousands." Minji checked a rifle. "Any other questions?" Jisoo raised his hand, trembling slightly. "Sergeant, what if we cannot hold them?" Minji looked at him. He was just a boy. He should be in school, worrying about exams and friends and what to do with his life. Instead, he was here, covered in dirt and blood, asking if they would survive. "Then we die," she said simply, "and we make sure that shelter has time to evacuate. That is the job, Private. Protect people. Die if we have to. That is what we do." Jisoo swallowed hard. Then he nodded and checked his own weapon. The battle for Incheon lasted 3 days. Minji lost 27 soldiers. They saved every single person in that shelter. In orbit, the Prometheus fought its last battle as a complete ship. Captain Do-hyun had pushed his vessel beyond every limit, had killed more Devourers than any other human captain, had become a legend that parents whispered to their children. But even legends fall. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Main reactor at 30%. We have maybe an hour of power left. Engineer Kang Tai-woo reported the damage without emotion. He had been awake for 60 hours, had lost half his engineering team, had performed miracles just to keep the ship flying. Now miracles were not enough. "Can we make it to the surface?" Do-hyun asked. "Maybe it will be rough. Then take us down. We can do more good on the ground than floating dead up here." The Prometheus fell from the sky like a meteor, flames wrapping around its hull, its remaining weapons firing until the barrels melted. It crashed in the mountains outside Seoul, carving a valley into the earth. Somehow, impossibly, most of the crew survived. But the ship was dead. The heart of human resistance gone. In his makeshift command center in the wreckage, Do-Hyun received word of Taiwu's discovery. The engineer had been studying captured devourer technology for months, trying to understand how the creatures communicated. Now, bleeding from a head wound and barely conscious, he had found the answer. The hive mind, Taiwu explained, his words slurring. They are all connected. Every devourer, every ship, every unit. One mind controlling everything. And I've found where it lives. Where? A ship, the biggest one. The one at the center of their fleet. Kill that, and you kill the connection. Every devourer everywhere becomes nothing. Just animals. Stupid, confused animals. Do-Hyun stared at him. You are telling me there is a way to end this? Yes, but... Taiwu coughed, and blood came with it. Someone has to deliver the weapon, manually, inside the ship. The blast radius would kill whoever did it. Yes. Do-Hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Can you build this weapon? Give me 12 hours and whatever is left of the Prometheus. I can build it. Do it. In her bunker, Commander Yuna received the news about the weapon. She also received a transmission from Ambassador Oh Yoonji, broadcasting from somewhere in the chaos of Feason politics. The Concordat has voted, Yoonji said, her voice tired but triumphant. 40 species. 40 species have agreed to send aid. Their fleets are already on the way. How long? 12 hours. Maybe less. 12 hours. The same amount of time Taiwu needed. The universe had a cruel sense of timing. We need to hold 12 hours, Yuna told her staff. 12 hours and help arrives. 12 hours and we might have a weapon that can end this. 12 hours. A communications officer looked at the tactical display. Ma'am, I do not know if we have 12 minutes. Then we make 12 minutes feel like 12 hours. Get me every channel. Every surviving unit. Every soldier with a weapon and the will to use it. Across Earth, humans heard her voice. Scattered, bleeding, dying, they heard their commander tell them that help was coming. That they just had to hold. That every second they bought was a second their children might live. They held. In Tokyo, a retired teacher led a group of students against a devourer harvester with nothing but kitchen knives and courage. In Cairo, doctors defended their hospital with makeshift weapons while their patients cheered them on. In São Paulo, a grandmother drove her car into a devourer's legs, giving her grandchildren time to escape. Everywhere, humans fought. Not because they thought they would win, but because that was what humans did. 12 hours later, exactly on time, the first Concordat ships appeared in Earth's sky. Behind them came more, and more, and more. The largest fleet in galactic history, assembled to save the species that had saved Velis Prime on the bridge of the lead Concordat vessel. A Moran commander, grown from the larvae that Minji had rescued years ago, gave the order to attack. For Earth, it said. For family. In the wreckage of the Prometheus, Captain Do-Hyun held Taiwu's completed weapon in his hands. It was smaller than he expected. Strange that something so small could end a war. I will do it, he said. Get me a shuttle. Anything that can fly. But when he reached the shuttle bay, someone was already there. Private Nam Jasu stood in the doorway, blocking his path. The boy was injured, exhausted, barely standing. But his eyes were clear. Sir, Jasu said, I heard about the mission. I want to go. No, this is my responsibility. With respect, sir, you are wrong. Jasu stood straighter. You taught us to protect what matters. You showed us what it means to be human. The galaxy needs you. Earth needs you. They need someone to lead them after this is over. And what do you need, Private? Jizu smiled, and for a moment he looked even younger. I need to know that it mattered. That I mattered. Let me do this, sir. Let me be the one who saves everyone. Do-hyun looked at the boy. 18 years old. An entire life ahead of him. Dreams and hopes and possibilities all about to end. I cannot ask you to do this, he said. You are not asking. I am volunteering. Jisoo took the weapon from Do-hyun's hands. Someone has to tell them we won, sir. That should be you. Before Do-hyun could respond, Jisoo was in the shuttle, launching toward the Devour Hive core. The last transmission came 15 minutes later. Jisoo's voice, young and scared but steady. This is Private Nam Jisoo of the Terran Marines. Tell my mother I love her. Tell the galaxy we were here. And tell those things, a pause, a breath. Tell them Earth sends its regards. The weapon detonated, and across the galaxy, 1 billion devourers went silent. The silence was the strangest part. For hours, the sky had screamed with the sound of weapons and dying ships and 1 billion hungry mouths. Now there was nothing. Just the wind. Just the distant crackle of fires. Just the sound of survivors slowly realizing they were still alive. In engine, Sergeant Cho Minji lowered her rifle and stared at the devourer that had been about to kill her. It was still standing, but its eyes were empty. Its limbs twitched without purpose. It was alive, but the thing that had made it dangerous, the connection to the hive, was gone. What happened? One of her soldiers asked. Minji did not answer. She did not know. All she knew was that they were not dying anymore. In orbit, the combined human and Concordat fleet watched the Devourer Armada fall apart. Ships that had been coordinated predators became confused animals, crashing into each other, drifting aimlessly, easy targets for weapons that had been nearly useless minutes before. The Moran commander on the lead Concordat vessel gave the order. All ships. Destroy them. Every single one. Make sure this never happens again. It took 6 more hours to clear Earth's orbit. 6 hours of methodical, merciless destruction. The Devourers, without their hive mind, could not fight back. They could not coordinate. They could not even flee with purpose. They died in their millions, and no one in the galaxy mourned them. When it was over, Admiral Han Yuno walked out of her bunker and looked at the sky. It was morning. The sun was rising over a scarred and wounded Earth, but it was rising. We won, someone said beside her. It was Captain Shin Do-hyun, covered in dirt and blood, leaning heavily on a makeshift crutch. Somehow. We won. Private Jisoo, Yuna said quietly. He did this? Yes. Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then she said, we need to remember him. We need to remember all of them. Every single person who died so that we could have this sunrise. We will, Do-hyun promised. We will never forget. 1 year later, the galaxy was a different place. The Concordat had dissolved. Too many species had lost faith in an alliance that debated while worlds burned. In its place, something new was forming. A coalition built not on fear of difference, but on respect for courage. And at the center of that coalition, to the surprise of absolutely no one who had watched the war, was humanity. Earth was healing. The scars remained, visible from orbit, but green was spreading again. Cities were being rebuilt. Children were being born. Life, stubborn and unstoppable, was continuing. On the grounds of the rebuilt United Nations, President Yoon Ha-jin stood before a crowd that stretched to the horizon. Behind her was a wall of names. Every human who had died in the war. Every sacrifice remembered. But she was not speaking to humans today. Her words were being broadcast to 4,000 worlds, translated into 1,000 languages, heard by beings that humanity had never imagined. 1 year ago, we stood at the edge of extinction. 1 year ago, we faced an enemy that had never been defeated. 1 year ago, The galaxy watched and wondered if the violent primitives from Earth would simply disappear. She paused, looking at the sky. Somewhere up there, ships from dozens of species orbited peacefully, working together, building something new. We did not disappear. We fought. We bled. We lost more than I can ever express. But we survived. Not alone. In our darkest hour, species who had feared us, who had rejected us, who had called us monsters, came to our aid. They stood beside us. They bled beside us. And together, we won. She turned to face the representatives of the galaxy, assembled in person for the first time in human history. The Concordat called us monsters because we knew how to fight. They were right. We are monsters. But they did not understand what that meant. Monsters protect their own. Monsters fight when all hope is lost. Monsters do not give up, do not surrender, do not stop until their family is safe. Our voice rose. And now, the galaxy is our family. Every species that stood with us. Every world that sent its children to die beside ours. Every being that looked at the impossible and chose to fight anyway. You are family now. And we protect family. She pointed to the sky. Out there, somewhere, is the thing that the devourers were running from. Something worse. Something that scared even them. Someday, it may come for us. Someday, we may face a threat that makes the devourers look like children playing games. A smile crossed her face. Let it come. We will be ready, because that is what we do. We face the darkness. We fight the monsters. We come crashing down from the heavens, and we save people. That is humanity. That is Earth. That is what we have always been, and what we will always be. She raised her hand. The galaxy called for mercy. Earth answered. And we will answer again, whenever, wherever, for whoever needs us. Because no one should face the darkness alone. Across the crowd, across the planet, across the stars, beings of every shape and size heard her words. Some cheered. Some cried. Some simply stood in silence, understanding for the first time what it meant to have humanity as an ally. In Incheon, Sergeant Minji watched the speech from a rooftop. Beside her sat a young Moran, one of the children she had saved years ago on Velis Prime. It had grown now, nearly as tall as her, its compound eyes bright with intelligence. Family, it said, the word it had learned first in the human language. Yeah, Minji replied, putting her arm around its shoulders. Family. In the rebuilt shipyard of Seoul, engineer Kang Taiwu supervised the construction of humanity's new flagship. It was bigger than the Prometheus, more powerful, more advanced. And on its hull, carved in letters 10 meters tall, was a name, the Namjasu. Every Terran warship would carry that name somewhere. Every human soldier would know the story. An 18-year-old boy who had lied about his age, who had been scared every single day, who had given everything so that others could live. That was what being human meant. Far away, on the edge of known space, Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of a scout vessel, looking at the stars. He was searching for something. The thing that had frightened the devourers. The thing that was still out there, somewhere in the endless dark. Sir, his navigator said. Orders from Earth. They want us to come home. The memorial ceremony is tomorrow. Do-hyun nodded slowly. Set course for Earth, but keep the sensors running. Keep watching. You think it is still out there? The thing they were running from? I know it is. Do-hyun watched the star stream past as the ship turned toward home. And when it comes, we will be ready. We will always be ready. He thought of Jisoo. He thought of Admiral Ji-won. He thought of every person who had given their lives so that humanity could have this moment. This peace, this chance to build something better. They did not die for nothing, he said quietly. We will make sure of that. The ship jumped toward Earth, toward home, toward a future that had been bought with blood and courage and the stubborn refusal to give up. And in the great silence between galaxies, something ancient and terrible turned its attention toward a small yellow star and the defiant species that lived around it. It had heard the stories. It had watched the devourers fall. It was curious. What manner of creature could do such things? What were these humans? It would find out, eventually, but not today. Today, it was content to watch, to wait, to wonder, because even ancient and terrible things had learned to be careful of monsters. And humanity was just getting started. The galaxy slept peacefully that night. For the first time in recorded history, it slept without fear, because the monsters of Earth were watching over them, and they would never stop.